How did the Illuminati go from being a good thing to a bad thing? What happened was is that there was a division in the esoteric ranks, for lack of a better term, and this happened around the turn of the 1800s to the 1900s. As you're making that transition, there was a dissension in the esoteric culture in Germany. And the dissension basically came as a result of a person that had become pretty popular, and her name was Helen Blavatsky. And she's a very, very, very knowledgeable lady. She has a lot of very informative books out there. Um, However, um, there are those that believe that the nature of some of the things that she teaches at some point becomes what uh, too far. Like she's taking it too far, and it becomes um, Luciferian. And what I mean by Luciferian is I mean that it becomes the power the power that she's trying to invoke is so much greater than a human being can bear, that for her to try to get on some of the levels that she did in her human state, in my opinion, is dangerous for normal humans to dabble in. You know, you got to keep it humble, man. And when I say something is Luciferian, I mean that it's too good to be true. You know, like it sounds really good. And Luciferian influences like this. An angel can give you a Luciferian influence. It can make you think that things are possible that are not possible. Like when a person has manic behavior and they're like, oh yeah, I can go out and just grab $1 million like it's nothing, and they sound so convincing. It's because they're under a Luciferian influence. And the problem with a Luciferian influence is a Luciferian is a light bearing angel, and the problem with light bearing angels is that they have never necessarily been a human before, and so what they think is going to work, which might work for them, isn't necessarily going to work for you as a human. And they might not understand that because they've never been in the circumstance of being a human to understand what kind of pressures you're really under. You know what I mean? So what happens is that there's a split in the German teachers, where Helen breaks off from basically what is for lack of a better term, is Rosicrucianism. She breaks off from German Rosicrucianism, and starts something called the Theosophic Society. And Theosophy is the mysticism that she teaches, and she ends up being Hitler's advisor. And I believe that her Luciferian influence is what ultimately drove him insane, and what led him to do the crazy things that he attempted to do in his and ultimately led to him killing himself. You know what I mean? He couldn't handle the Luciferian pressure. You know what I mean? He thought he was just gonna take over the world, and there was some really realistic stuff that wasn't gonna go down, that whatever was influencing him didn't allow him to understand. And that's a little bit of insight to what I mean by Luciferian, but also it's a division that happens in the ranks of basically masonry and speculative masonry. And what happens is there's two guys, Rudolf Steiner and Max Heindel, and they break off from the Theosophic Society, which is Benjamin Krim and Helen Blavatsky. Okay, basically later on in the years after Hitler, this Benjamin Krim guy ends up being one of the students of Blavatsky. After Hitler's already left the scene and all this, and he ends up, and it starts getting weird when you get into theosophy. So I just have to leave it as what it is because it's not really my cup of tea. But there is a division that happens there in the esoteric world, and it's where the Rosicrucians split off and they move to da, 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 Riverside, no, Oceanside or something like that. There's a spot in California where they've got a Rosicrucian church, and these two guys that broke off from Helen Blavatsky's group, they went and they started a Rosicrucian church there, and so that's where the esoteric rift occurs, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And basically what I'm saying is that the Rosicrucian teachings were too Christ oriented to be on board with the Theosophic tradition and the Nazis. You know what I mean? That shit didn't fly. Um, anyways, uh, so one of the things that the Nazis kept as a secret, you know what I mean, that they felt like that it was a secret that needed to be protective, was they believed that it was true that the sun was a cube, and that the reason you can tell that the sun was a cube is that it was spinning. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the swastika comes from. It shows the sun as a cube with the four rays coming off of the four, of the four directions, as if it was a square, basically. And so, they the Nazis, which broke off from the other esoteric groups, they believed a lot of crazy shit. But what happens is after the Nazis lose, then these guys that basically could afford to escape out of there and not be prosecuted for their war crimes, you know what I mean? They used their Illuminatus influence to get out of getting railroaded with the rest of the Nazis, and somehow these folks have managed to infiltrate our upper societies over the United States because they didn't have anywhere else to go, and now you have what's some of the pieces of the Illuminati. But what I'm not saying like the ones that are necessarily functioning, but I'm saying you have pieces of Illuminati teachings that break down into different lodges and stuff in different ways, in different groups and different fraternities, because of just like the way the cookie crumbles. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys, just like the Templars, they disperse and then reintegrate into Freemasonry. Well, what's left of the Nazis, they try to reintegrate into Freemasonry also. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to get, because at the time that the Nazis, the Nuremberg trials and stuff like that, you know what I mean? A Nazi was no kind of a person to be, and it still isn't, in my opinion. But the truth is that some of these people were so powerful that they have still slipped through the cracks and still are in particular places in the Western Hemisphere that may not be as obvious as and there's reasons why it's not that obvious. And so I want to show you how that there's seeds of weird information that have been planted in there. And what they are is these guys are leftover German Illuminati that have kind of reintegrated into our society. And so you have these little pods of folks still kind of being tyrannical and controlling shit. And I'm trying to explain to you, where it went bad, you know what I mean? And where it went bad was the Luciferian influence, in my opinion, of Helen Blavatsky and the Theosophic Society. And so I'm going to leave it at that for now because I don't want to, well, I kind of want to overload your brain, but I know that it's not healthy to do it too bad or in too strong a doses, whatever, I don't know. Just the alchemist here. You know what I mean?